Hello and welcome to episode 23 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. I am your host, Rick Doherty. This is another jam-packed show today. Later on, my wife Courtney will join me for a dining review of Garden Grill in the Land Pavilion at Epcot. First, however, I will be joined by our good friend Marissa from Chicago. We will be discussing a lot of the things that are returning to Walt Disney World for the first time since the parks reopened in July of last year. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, and comment. Share this podcast with anyone who loves Disney, Universal, theme parks, or travel. Also, to really help the show, consider using me as your travel agent for your next vacation. My services are always 100% free to you, and I am an authorized Disney travel planner with Ear to There Travel. As someone who's in the parks every week, I feel I bring a lot to the table when planning your trip. Shoot me an email at rick@eartotheretravel.com or call 727-507-3123. Like I said, my services are always free to you. I book Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, Universal Orlando Resort, Universal Hollywood, Las Vegas, New York City, or about anywhere in the world. rick@eartotheretravel.com and 727-507-3123. It's time to welcome back Marissa to the show. How are you doing today, friend?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I am doing excellent. There is a lot that is either returning, has returned, or is going to be debuting at Walt Disney World over the next few weeks and months, or the last few weeks and months. And I think it's time that we just sit down and talk about some of this stuff, because it's really exciting that it feels like we're kind of starting to return to some semblance of normalcy. Obviously, we're not past anything, and I understand all of those things you're going to say, but just to feel some of those things coming back a little bit is really, really exciting. And the first one, we just can't ignore this one because it is definitely the elephant in the room, and that's fireworks are back at Walt Disney World. Happily Ever After at Magic Kingdom and Epcot Forever, which is in Epcot. So, initial reactions.
Joy, just absolute ecstatic happiness. Seeing the videos that people were posting of Happily Ever After being back the first night or two was just the best feeling watching it. I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but being able to live through that excitement was still just so much fun and contagious, and I cannot wait to see fireworks again in the future. Epcot Forever, of course, also very excited about, but Happily Ever After has my heart just a little bit more.
Have you seen Epcot Forever?
I have. I actually saw it February of 2020, and this is going to sound bad, but I remember enjoying it, but I don't really remember much about it. So I remember thinking that was a good show, but I really couldn't pinpoint anything except for the kites, which are not returning.
So I have seen Epcot Forever exactly one time in person, and that was the day it debuted on October 1st of 2019. I did 4 parks in the same day, and my goal was to end with the first ever showing of Epcot Forever. I did that. It was slam-packed to see it, and then I have never seen it since then. I even was at Epcot earlier this week planning on seeing Epcot Forever, but it poured all day long. So instead, I just decided to head home, and I'm like, I'll see it when it's a little less demand. So I've still only seen it once in person, and I didn't have a great spot because of how popular it was on the day it opened. Happily Ever After, I've only seen it a few times in person because I'll tell you the truth, like, you really do have to plan that out if you want to be anywhere near it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's different too, coming from you as a local versus me as a vacationer. There's probably a little less of that feeling of, I have to see this tonight, because you can just go a different night and see it if you really want to. Whereas for me, it's like, okay, this is the night I'm in Magic Kingdom, so this is what I have to do, and I have to see it this night if I want to see it this year.
Yes, because one of those times that I did see it was back when I still lived in Arizona, and we did it on a vacation. You'd have to do it. And then one of the things that does end up happening as a local or somebody who gets to go a lot is you keep saying to yourself, oh, I'll do that next time. And then a global pandemic happens and you don't get to do it next time. So if anything, this is definitely a YOLO experience. Like, make sure you are catching these things every time you get the chance, because you just never know when something's going to get reimagined, when it's going to go away, or when a global pandemic's going to happen and shut down the theme parks. There is one thing that I think Marissa and I are both definitely on the same page about this, but is causing a little bit of controversy about Happily Ever After since it has started, which is they have gone from ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to more inclusive language, saying dreamers, referring to everybody as dreamers. I think this is a good change. I'm kind of surprised at how controversial it is, because Disney is going to want to make everybody happy if they can, so why not make everybody happy? But Marissa and I know each other from Twitter, which is a place where you see people disagreeing about this. So I just want to get your reaction to that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that people are putting up such a stink about it, but I'm not surprised. And, the way I see it, like you said, of course Disney's going to want to make everyone feel welcome. And, you know, setting all that aside, just looking at it from a Disney perspective, I feel like addressing people as dreamers is way more on brand and in line with what they're promoting for the show. The whole show is about dreaming and believing in yourself to find that happily ever after. So, of course, they should address everyone as dreamers. They're setting the stage for the show. They want you to get in that mindset. And quite frankly, being addressed as a dreamer is way more fun anyway. So it just seems like a positive change in every aspect.
I 100% agree with your take on that, because as a man in my 40s, when I hear ladies and gentlemen, I'm like, oh, I'm the gentleman. And that's a whole lot different, and it sets up a different experience, because that show, of anything in Disney, is meant to put you in that young, idealistic, like you're ready to take over the world mindset. And I do think Dreamers works a lot better with that than the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That always struck me as like too formal for the type of show we were about to watch.
Yeah, definitely. It feels a lot more formal, and it separates people into categories instead of saying, let's all come together and dream as one to find our happily ever afters. So I think it fits a lot better.
Yeah, Disney has always been good with those gender neutral terms too, like pals and friends and all that stuff. So I think it just works. It makes sense. Hopefully the comment section is fine after we discussed that. Now, here's something that is coming back that I know you are stoked about this one. I am excited about this one. Run Disney. Live in-person races are coming back. So first of all, I want to talk about Run Disney coming back in general, but then they also made a little bit of a change. Want to discuss that too. So you're a big Run Disney person. What are your thoughts on that coming back here?
Oh my gosh, so excited. I really just got into Run Disney in 2020. That was my first race was Princess 2020. And I had actually signed up for Wine and Dine later that year, which obviously I wasn't able to do, but I got hooked. And so the fact that it's coming back and in-person races are going to be back, I'm so excited. There's something so motivating on a different level, knowing that you can go run with people and get that energy from everyone and that excitement, everyone being there running together as opposed to a virtual run, So I'm definitely excited they're coming back. I was very surprised Wine and Dine is in person, but that's fun. I know a lot of people are excited to be able to do that race, especially because it's the villains theme again. I know a lot of people were sad that they were unable to do that last year. So I think that was a good choice. But yeah, it's fabulous. It's awesome.
That actually surprises me, because I had assumed that you had done more Run Disney races than that, because Princess Half was actually my first Run Disney event as well. I think one of the things that I love about it is I used to be a way more serious runner. I've sort of changed my fitness goals to more hiking now. So I'm more distance and hiking and more weightlifting and stuff like that. But I used to be a very, very serious runner. I used to run races basically every weekend, marathons, half marathons, stuff like that. Run Disney gives me that ability to sort of get back into the running world as part of my training for other things, but not have to worry about my time or worry about trying to set a new PR. If I just want to stop and get my picture taken with Chippendale, I'm going to stop and have my picture taken with Chippendale. It was one of my favorite experiences that I've had at Disney was running the Princess Half Marathon. When I think about the fact that that was just a couple weeks before everything happened and how we were crammed in like sardines and all of that, it definitely feels really weird in retrospect, but it was so fun to be running with my earbuds in my ears and listening to like my music as I'm running through Magic Kingdom. That's just something that you're not going to get to replicate. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I did the 10K, so I didn't do the half, so I didn't get to go through Magic Kingdom, which just seems like the coolest experience. But for the 10K, we got to run around the World Showcase. And that is truly, when I think about it, one of the most magical experiences I've ever had at Disney because the sun was just coming up. They had all the torches lit and they were blasting Disney music over the speakers, and they had everyone from the countries out there cheering in that country's language, cheering you on as you ran through. And that was just incredible. And it really, really got me hooked on the whole thing because you are a much more serious runner. I'm the amateur runner. I don't really do a lot of big races or serious races. So this was like the perfect speed to really get into it and feel like I could run and have fun and not be worried about, having to finish at a certain time or anything like that.
So I'm going to tell you a little story. This is a little bit into my life. When I was serious about training for races and I was running, and I will tell you this, and a lot of people are going to think I'm lying, but I'm actually not lying. In 2018, I ran about 11 miles a day. And I was gearing up for specific races at specific times and trying to get ready for them. But there was a time when I was training for these races that the last mile, because I know that World Showcase is actually a mile loop, I would envision in my mind that the last mile of every training was me running around World Showcase and trying to picture what I would be passing at the time, because it's just a way when you're in your head, when you're trying to train for something, you just do whatever you can to motivate yourself. So I always thought that would be such a cool way to end a half marathon or something, to just hit that last mile, be right there at World Showcase. But back on Run Disney coming back, the Spring Surprise is the new race that's coming. It's basically replacing the Star Wars Rivalry Run. What do we think this is going to be, Marissa?
I don't know. I think they really could go anywhere with it, and I think that's kind of the point. They want to keep people guessing until the very last minute, and I think it's smart. I had heard that Rival Run was typically the slowest weekend to sell out, so I think Disney's trying to figure out, is it the theme? Is it the timing of the run? If we try to get people in by saying, hey, we're going to do something new every year, you don't know what the theme's going to be. You could only get this theme if you do the run this one year. They might be able to bring more people in. So I totally get it. And I think it's going to be fun to see what they do with it.
My two thoughts on the Spring Surprise, one of them is optimistic and one of them maybe is a little bit pessimistic. I wonder if they don't want us running through Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, but they knew that if they brought Rivalry Run back, they would have to run through Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Because if you don't know what Rivalry Run was, you would pick Light Side or Dark Side, and then you would run a lot through Hollywood Studios, but this was before Star Wars Galaxy's Edge existed. But now I think they would feel like they would be running into issues with them getting Galaxy's Edge ready for the day. Obviously, everything that goes along with Rise of the Resistance. So I think that's one of the reasons they backed away from the Star Wars theme. I do think that the timing of the race does play a part in it being slower. Obviously, running in Florida is a lot easier in January and February and November than it is in April, May, June. You have to start so early. But this spring surprise is exciting. I'm hoping that not only do we get different themes, but we also get different distances. Like they might throw in an 8K or something like that, that may be a little different.
Yeah, I would love to see some varied distances. And I would also love to see some different parks represented. Like we have a run through Magic Kingdom and Epcot, but I would love to see a run through Animal Kingdom. I think that would be a lot of fun to get a run through there in the morning and, maybe by Everest super early. I think that would be great. But I mean, I don't know. Like you said, there's definitely concerns with getting the parks ready for the morning and with animals being there. That's a whole different bag that they have to deal with.
And we will definitely have an episode about this soon because Marissa loves Animal Kingdom and everything about Animal Kingdom. So I knew the second she said different parks where she was going with that. And speaking of Disney's Animal Kingdom and things that are returning, Festival of the Lion King is back. It's not the full experience of the show, but it's back at Disney's Animal Kingdom. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb when I say this is the best show on Walt Disney World property.
Yeah, so I've only seen it once because my family was never really into shows when I would go as a kid. So I went on one of my recent trips to see it and I was blown away. It was such a great show, so much fun, and honestly, I know it's back in a limited capacity, but I'll take anything. Any version of that show, I am willing to go see and very excited to go see.
The talent of these performers at the Festival of the Lion King show, you're almost getting, obviously it's not a Broadway setup to the show, but it's Broadway quality with the singing, with the dancing, with some of the floats, I guess, for lack of a better term. They go all out on this show, and I am so glad it's back because it's one of the best things at Animal Kingdom. And as Marissa will tell you, Animal Kingdom is a great, great park. And also back at Disney's Animal Kingdom is the restaurant Tusker House. Now, this was a buffet back in the past and a character dining experience. It is now family style, but it is still a character dining experience. It's just a little more socially distant. I believe you get to meet Mickey, Goofy, Pluto, and Donald. I'm not 100% sure, but they're in their like safari outfits. And this is a great dining location. I suggest it for a lot of families where maybe they have one or two members of the family who are a little more adventurous in what they like to eat, while they still do have a lot of that basic Disney buffet food, family style food. So I think this kind of hits the mark for everybody. Have you been to Tusker House, Marissa?
I have. It was back in 2017, so it's been a little while, but I really enjoyed the experience. The food was fantastic. The characters were a lot of fun. Of course, the interaction now is a little different with the characters, but I still think it's a great opportunity to see the characters, especially now when meet and greets aren't really a thing. The food was fabulous. I know they modified the menu a little bit, but it still looks pretty good.
And another thing that sort of surprised me is just goofing around on the app recently, thinking about what I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks and months, is Tusker House is not the hardest reservation to get, even though it just reopened to the public. So you might want to take a flyer on it. Now, I will say that there are better places to eat at Animal Kingdom because Tiffin's is possibly the best restaurant on property, and Satuli Canteen is the best quick service location on property. But if you're looking to just sort of, as they say in Cheers, pound down the animal fat and just really, really eat, Tusker House, all you care to enjoy restaurant at Animal Kingdom might be the way to go for you.
Yeah, and I think especially if you're a family who might have young kids interested in seeing those characters or meeting those characters is a big deal for you, that definitely sells the restaurant a little more.
Another restaurant that has reopened to the public at the Polynesian Resort is Ohana. And they definitely, I believe this was a manufactured controversy to try to get everybody talking about it. But they initially said they weren't going to have the noodles when they reopened, but they corrected that. And they do have the noodles now at Ohana. I have only done Ohana for breakfast because as a vegetarian, it just never really made sense for me to do it at any other time. I know you've done Ohana and you really enjoy it. So why don't you tell people a little bit about your experience there?
So I've only done Ohana for dinner. So we've got a little bit of both sides covered here. But I've always really loved the dinner experience. I thought the food was excellent. I know a lot of people have said it can be hit or miss depending on the day you're there. But I must have gotten lucky because I've only had great experiences there. On my last trip, actually, my friend and I loved the bread so much that we asked for more and we took it with us, brought it back to our resort, and had it for breakfast the next day, which I think is a great idea if you like that pineapple coconut bread, even though now it won't be returning to dinner. But the dinner experience used to be fabulous. Now, with the changed menu, I I can't say it's something that I'm chomping at the bit to go try again. I think for me, the loss of the shrimp is a big deal. Personally, I know some people will not care about that at all, but that makes a big difference to me. And the change of the pineapple coconut bread makes a big difference to me. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll try it eventually.
So, here in the United States, earlier this week, we celebrated Independence Day, which sort of has me thinking about something we still don't know when it's going to be returning. And that's the Hall of Presidents in Liberty Square in Magic Kingdom. Now, I know the last time they had to do the update for a new president, it took a long time as well, but they said that they were revamping a lot of different parts of the show. We're just not getting any word about it right now, and I don't know what's going on with Hall of Presidents.
Hall of Presidents and the railroad seem to be operating on the same time schedule where you just have to guess that eventually it'll come back. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it typically takes several months for them to do an update like this, but I would think they'd try to have it back by the 50th, if for nothing more than just being able to push guests into it to help alleviate the crowds a little bit.
I 100% agree on that specific argument. It seems like a wasted opportunity to have this show that can really eat people and take people out of Magic Kingdom, which can definitely get really crowded. It doesn't seem like it should have been that hard for them to prepare for it because it was either going to stay the same or there was one other option. So I don't really understand what's taking them so long this time. And it would just be really nice to have that back. It is something that I like, take politics out of it. It's just something as a history nerd, I like to sit there and be like, that doesn't really look like Polk or whatever. And I think the weirdest part is they're just not telling us anything. I think it's a good point you made about the railroad. We're just going to have to assume, forget that they have a railroad and be pleasantly surprised when it returns.
Yeah, it is strange that they haven't said anything about it, especially because it is a lot of people one of their favorite attractions for a lot of people. A lot of people really do love enjoying that history. So it is weird that they've just been completely silent on it, but I'm wondering if it's maybe because with all the other things they've had to push back due to the last year, if maybe this has also gotten pushed back even further, so they're not even close to being on the schedule that they usually would be. But I don't know. It's obviously all speculation right now, but I do hope we get it back sooner rather than later.
And I think we have to discuss the situation that we have become a lot more polarized over the past few years. And I think that that played a part in why it took so long the last time there was a refurbishment. And I'm wondering if that might be playing a part in it now. They just don't want that drama at Walt Disney World going back to Happily Ever After. If they can try to take the controversy out of it, they're going to try to do that. And right now, I just don't think they've figured out a way to do that with Hall of Presidents. But hopefully they do. Hopefully they find a way to make it more what it was originally supposed to be as an attraction. Coming to Epcot next week, actually, 1 week from today, the first Epcot Festival to return for a second time since reopening is going to be the Food and Wine Festival. Disney definitely took the opportunity with the reopening of the parks to basically make Epcot a festival 365 days a year. You get like 1 or 2 weeks here and there where there's not a festival. Food and Wine starting 1 week from today. I know you're going to be going back to Walt Disney World in the fall. How excited are you to do some more Food and Wine Festival?
I can't wait. I'm so excited to see all the menus come out, and I won't be there until the end of October. So I've got a good few months of seeing other people trying the food and getting to read reviews and kind of live through other people and plan what I want to try. I'm very excited to see it come back. And I do think it's funny how you mentioned, Epcot really has become festivals year round. Has there really been more than 2 weeks since it's reopened where they haven't had a festival going? Because I don't think it has.
So Flower and Garden ended on Monday. It was the last day of Flower and Garden, and the 15th is when they are opening the Food and Wine Festival. That is a 10-day gap, and I think that might be the longest gap they've had thus far in between festivals. It has been crazy. I love it. I love the festivals at Epcot. I'm super excited about Food and Wine Festival because just walking around earlier this week, they had some of the booths up getting ready to staff them. They were covered and everything, and you couldn't order anything. They didn't have menus, but it looks like the Ireland booth is back. They skipped Ireland last year, didn't have it for Food and Wine Festival. I know a lot of people like those Guinness and Bailey shakes that they make. Just seeing those booths come back, the Africa booth, which is a really, really good booth, I got really excited. It's one of my favorite things to do at Epcot is experience these festivals, especially early in their runs. Of course, 1 week from today is the start of Food and Wine Festival, and I would be a bad podcaster if I didn't get an Epcot Park Pass reservation for the first day of Food and Wine Festival. So I'll be there with all the Fuzzy Mike vloggers trying the food for the first time. So you can definitely look forward to hearing about all that in a future episode. I think we've discussed this before, but Marissa, what is your favorite Epcot festival?
I think, gosh, it is hard. I think Flower and Garden is one of my favorites for sure. I love it. But I also really love Festival of the Arts. Both of those for me probably come before Food and Wine, but it's hard because they're all so much fun. The only one I haven't done is Festival of the Holidays. So at some point, I have to get to Disney to try that so I can really weigh in and make an informed ranked listing.
I've done Festival of the Holidays. It's really fun, but I definitely don't think it's my top priority. Festival of the Arts to me is just fantastic, and I love that one so much. The food designs are so fun and so interesting. Getting to meet the artists who do a lot of this work, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to just talk to people who have these incredible talents and work incredibly hard on them. So I definitely love that aspect of it as well. The only problem with Festival of the Arts is because they spend so much time on the design and appearance of the food that you end up having more expensive snacks because it takes them a lot longer. So just keep that in mind.
And how do you feel about Food and Wine coming back in the summer? Because I know obviously Disney World is scorching hot all summer long. So do you feel like it's coming back too early where it's a little harder to snack around all day with the heat coming down on you?
Yes and no. One of the things that they have been doing for these festivals since the parks reopened is opening the World Showplace building, which is huge, which is air conditioned. They'll have like 4 or 5 booths in there, some tables where you can sit or you can stand around a table, get some air conditioning. If they didn't do that, I would think I agree with what you're saying, and maybe it would be too early to be opening it. We also are basically assuming that the reason that they closed Canada Far and Wide temporarily is they're going to use that space in the Canada Pavilion as an indoor area as well. I think they're trying to address that, but I think if Disney had their way, these festivals would never stop. It's a reason to bring annual pass holders and locals into Epcot, which is usually the easiest park pass reservation to get, maybe that or Animal Kingdom. Giving people these excuses. I know, I see Marissa on Skype and she's like, I don't know why people aren't going to Animal Kingdom. I think giving people an excuse to try something different every time at Epcot really, really helps, because there are very few changes in World Showcase. So if you can keep changing the festival, I just think that helps.
I think it would be interesting if they introduced like a summer festival specifically and did it more around like lighter fare and like more cooler items. But, that's just me spitballing armchair imagineering now. But all festivals are good.
Thank you so much for joining me again, Marissa. Where can people go on Twitter to follow your thoughts on theme parks and when the new NHL season gets started to get all your hockey input?
Yeah, my Twitter lately has become a mix of Disney and hockey, so just be warned. I am at Think Mickey Blog, and there's a lot of thoughts on there from everything from Disney and musicals and hockey and Universal, and it's a bit of a mixed bag at the moment. But thanks for having me on. I always love talking theme parks with you. It was a lot of fun, as always.
There is so much returning to Walt Disney World, and there are so many new things coming that Marissa and I will continue this topic in another episode in just a few weeks. Right now, it's time to welcome my wife, Courtney, so we can talk some food. How are you doing today, Court?
Hey, doing well, Rick.
Today we've got a dining review for Garden Grill Restaurant in the Land Pavilion at Future World in Epcot. This is an all-you-care-to-enjoy family-style dining experience that is also a character dining experience. They are slowly coming back to Walt Disney World, getting to see some of those beloved characters in these dining experiences. I think the last time we did one was for our anniversary in 2019. So it has been quite a while since we got to do a character dining meal. We're also specifically going out of our way to try and do more restaurants in Epcot, because there are almost festivals now 365 days a year in Epcot. We often just end up going to the festival booths, and I want to give you more opportunities to hear more about the great dining experiences at Epcot. So we had to do Garden Grill. We took part in Chip 'n Dale's Harvest Feast. This is $55 for adults, children age 3 to 9. It is $36. We're going to talk about the atmosphere and the characters in a little bit, but right now I want to focus on the food. They start you off with a harvest-inspired garden salad. What did you think of it, Courtney?
It was a very refreshing salad. Everything definitely tasted fresh, and it was a little bit fruity.
Yeah, we went for lunch basically in the middle of the day when Epcot can be at its hottest. So I think this was a great way to start off the meal, because you're back in the air conditioning, you smell the water from living with the land, you're starting to get refreshed, and then you get this salad, and it really prepares you for an all-you-care-to-enjoy meal. I guess I'll start with my skillet, because as all of you know by now, probably, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I'm a vegetarian, so I got the plant-based skillet, which came with a lot of rice. There was some corn, some other standard vegetables, and then it had a veggie patty, which definitely had some rice in it, some beans. It was heartier than you might expect for something like this, and I'll tell you what, I loved it. I got multiple portions of this skillet, but definitely the veggie patty specifically. So if you are on a plant-based diet or you're just a vegetarian, don't shy away from Garden Grill. I think we did shy away from it for just that reason, and you're definitely going to enjoy yourself on this plant-based option. Courtney, we went with one of your friends, and you two shared a skillet that did have some meat products on it, so why don't you describe those?
Yeah, a traditional roasted turkey breast, a nice beef with a chimichurri. That was actually stand out for me. It was very much tasting of fresh herbs. Everything was cooked perfectly and nothing was too heavy. Also in this skillet was a stuffing. Again, a lot of fresh herbs, a fresh taste, very quality, not too heavy either. And then they also give you green beans and corn.
And they also had mashed potatoes, of course, as you can tell from my last name on the podcast, and I've mentioned it before a number of times. I am Irish. I love myself a good potato. Their creamy mashed potatoes were fantastic. Maybe not as good as the potato salad that you can get at Beer Garden in Epcot. We'll talk about that in a future episode. So not the best potatoes that you can get in Epcot, but very, very good. I asked for seconds from the potatoes and literally just got a plate that just had the potatoes, and I was totally fine with that. And if that's not enough carbs for you, if you're training for a marathon or something, the macaroni and cheese, really, really good. Speaking of Beer Garden, which is at the Germany Pavilion in Epcot, I don't think it was as good as the macaroni and cheese there. However, it's a completely different style. And I don't think I would want the Beer Garden mac and cheese with this meal in particular, if that makes any sense. They actually put goldfish crackers in with the macaroni and cheese to give it a little bit of a crunch. It was really good. Absolutely loved it.
I totally agree. I love the creaminess and the sauce of it. It felt like, a traditional kind of comfort food style mac and cheese. And the same thing with the mashed potatoes. I really, really enjoyed those. I felt like they, again, were a comfort food, but prepared very well.
Essentially, Garden Grill's whole shtick is fresh food. It is a rotating restaurant that is on top of the ride Living with the Land. And if you've ridden Living with the Land, you know the first half is a little bit of dioramas, and it explains a lot about farming and different ecosystems. That's the part that you see while you're rotating through Garden Grill. But after that on the ride, you go through a greenhouse where they are growing fresh foods, and some of those foods are used in Garden Grill restaurants. So everything is really, really fresh. It almost has to be just to fit in with the theming, and Disney will always go out of their way to do the theming. What really sets Garden Grill apart and makes it worth, in my humble opinion, the pricey $55 price tag is the character interaction, and this character interaction was top notch for us. You got to meet Farmer Mickey, Pluto, and Chip and Dale. Knowing that I was going to meet Chip and Dale, specifically Dale, who anybody who's listened to the podcast for a while knows is so much better than Chip. Knowing that I was going to meet this legend, I had to wear my Chip and Dale Rescue Ranger t-shirt. And let's just say Dale was super duper excited to see it, and he was going crazy. Dale was really, really fun, but I think what separated everything was Chip and the interaction Chip had with Courtney's friend.
Right, so my friend had an alcoholic beverage, and Chip noticed this, and he was indicating that maybe she had a little too much to drink and was kind of making fun of her. And it was just the greatest thing. We were cracking up. We were enjoying it so much. And every time that the characters came around, because they do come around multiple times, they would kind of riff off of what had been done before. And it was just the best. It was the funniest. It's something that we will remember forever.
Literally, as we were leaving, Chip pointed her out and started wavering back and forth like he was surprised that she was able to walk out of the restaurant. And she had one alcoholic drink. It's not like she was walking around drunk. Chip just decided it would be funny to make fun of her as if she was drunk. Like Courtney said, an experience we're never going to forget. That was top quality character interaction. So Courtney, with the hefty $55 per adult price tag, what do you think about recommending this dining experience to people?
I do recommend it. I think it's good. We loved the food. We loved the character interaction. It's something that was kind of on our bucket list. And maybe you put it as that. It's a bucket list item. It's not something you're going to do all of the time. It's kind of celebratory, but it is worth the money for sure.
And I think more than almost any other restaurant in Walt Disney property, this is something where you're not going to be too adventurous for anybody in your family. if you're going with a big group of people, you want to make sure the food appeals to a big group of people. And I think that the Garden Grill menu does appeal to everybody. Even if you have somebody in your party who, as I said before, is on a plant-based diet, even they can find something at Garden Grill that is going to satisfy them. I do recommend it. With this caveat, however, with the festivals at Epcot going longer and longer now, and you can stop at those festival booths and get some really, really good food in small portions, making it easier to try more and more different things. Obviously, World Showcase is full of great restaurants. I will say that there might be better dining experiences in Epcot, but I don't know if there are better full experiences than the food and the character interaction that you get at Chippendale's Harvest Feast at Garden Grill in the Land Pavilion in Future World at Epcot. Courtney, thank you for joining me for another dining review.
Thanks so much. This was definitely a fun one to discuss.
This has been episode 23 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Please like, subscribe, and comment. For a free, no-obligation quote on a Walt Disney World vacation or any vacation, email me at rick@eartotheirtravel.com, rick@eartotheirtravel.com, or call 727-507-3123, 727-507-3123. I will talk to you again next Thursday when Sarah from Seattle will be back on the show to talk about ways to escape the heat at WDW. Have a great week.